Hi, everyone. It is Shaman Vizzi with the Adoptive and Foster Family Coalition of New York's interview series. Today, I'll be interviewing Lisa Maynard. Let's find out what she had to say and how she supports the coalition, adoptive families, and foster families throughout New York State. Note, I see now let's move to 2018, where I see now this is a long one, but it's actually a very important one because I noticed that this is something that we deal with all the time is supporting permanency through improved adoption competent mental health services. Or basically what I was thinking of is you're trying to help find adoption competent professionals, or that it's hard to find. Why did you feel that this was something important for everybody to learn at a workshop?
Right. So, well, because
Well, I
yeah,
know, but we're gonna.
partly from my experience over the years of working with adoptive families and the number of people that by the time they got to me had worked with a couple of different therapists or mental health providers, maybe in a residential setting or a partial treatment kind of center setting, and they come in and say, I've had all these people. Nobody ever talked to me about adoption. Nobody ever talked to my child about adoption. And in fact, it got so rough for us that the therapist actually said, this really isn't what you got into adoption for. Maybe you should give the child back. And happened over and over and over and over, and as recently as like within the last couple of years, pe- people are still coming and saying, "This is what the therapist told me. What do you think?" Like, well, first of all, we don't give children back, right? It's
Oh my
not a piece of clothing or something you order on Amazon that you need to return,
no.
because you don't like how it fits,
It didn't.
right?
Right, right.
So that's unacceptable. And there are a lot of therapists who just don't understand that when you talk about trauma or loss and grief is very different for a child who comes into a family through trauma history and losing everybody that they knew in their life, right? Even if they were not treated the best in those families. And so that loss and grief is very different. And there's just not enough understanding about that in the professional world. And so my day job is working, as I said, with the Center for Adoption Support and Education on a project called the National Adoption Competency Mental Health Training Initiative.
Okay.
Blech.
That's sometimes
Or,
there.
yeah, right, that's a mouthful. We call it NTI.
Okay.
And this is the web-based, self-paced training that we've developed through a cooperative agreement with the Children's Bureau. It's a 20-hour training for child welfare professionals and a 30-hour training for mental health professionals. Very well aligned curricula. Um, the mental health professional training has a more clinical focus, but really trying to create a shared language and a deeper understanding and knowledge of adoption and the core issues of adoption, and then providing skills and tools to do the work. And so I love this training. I've been working with the Center for Adoption Support and Education now for almost 5 years. It's really, 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 really good. Again, it's web-based, so it's all online. It's self-paced. You do it at your own pace, and it's free. The best thing of all is it's free, 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 free for adoption, for mental health professionals, and for child welfare professionals. So it's not designed for parents, but there are just a myriad of tools that are built in that a therapist or mental health professional or child welfare professional can take and immediately, walk out the door and give the resources to the adoptive families and foster families.
Yeah, I found that over the years as I've been learning through this, especially intensely since 2018, that something is simple. I hate to downplay it, that my trauma really, truly, it makes simple sense. I mean, well, my trauma obviously is going to impact how I parent. But when you've got trauma, the kids got trauma, and
Right.
everybody's just doing this, that's probably why professionals that aren't adoption competent just say, well, then it doesn't fit, give it back.
Right.
If
Right.
you're just constantly doing this.
Right. And
But
you're right. And you're both triggering each other, right?
exactly, it's like this vicious circle.
Yeah.
So as the parent, you need to start. And that's why I feel like with AFFCNY, they, with even just the reframing classes, and just that's just take it a step by step and realize that there was a book, I think it was the Connected Child, where the first time I ever heard ground yourself. Now, this was years ago. I mean, this is very simplistic stuff when you're first starting off, but for someone who doesn't know how to focus on looking back at themselves or internally about what they've been through, grounding yourself is not a simple thing, kind of like what you stated before.
Right.
Like, I jumped off the diving board and I
Right.
went, oh my goodness, I have to ground before acting. I'm like, I've never done that before. I've never stopped to think about what I was doing. I was just trying to tread water.
And you wind up doing this, right?
Yes, exactly,
And
exactly. So
drowning
that's
instead.
no, that makes a ton of sense. This is amazing.
Yeah.